Hi, we're back, and we're reading the story of redemption. Okay, we are on page 17. All right, we're talking about the battle in heaven that's getting ready to ensue between Satan and his angels and God and his angels. Okay, all right, let's continue reading. It would not have been safe to suffer any who united with Satan in his rebellion to continue to occupy heaven. Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay, if you're not happy in heaven, you're miserable, you gotta go. All right? They had learned the lesson of genuine rebellion against the unchangeable law of God, and this is incurable. They had learned the lesson of genuine rebellion, meaning, okay, and for us also, once we learn rebellion, we don't forget it, okay? And many of us rebel in different circumstances. And if rebelling against the right, then we're in the wrong and we have to pay the consequences for that. But in this situation, that's exactly what was happening. All right, Satan and his angels were rebelling against the good, against God, okay, for no reason whatsoever, okay? So the angels who had sided with Lucifer, they had learned that lesson. And apparently they liked that lesson. Okay, they didn't find any fault with Lucifer. They too found fault with God. But before Lucifer had taught that lesson, okay, they didn't know anything about it. But they had free will to choose to follow Satan or not choose to follow him. Okay? So even though we learn lessons that are not good for us, we still have a choice whether to practice those lessons or to ask for help and give them up. Okay? Now, if God had exercised his power to punish this chief rebel, disaffected angels would not have been manifested. Okay? Hence, God took another course, for he would manifest distinctly to all the heavenly host his justice and his judgment. He was getting ready to get the whole picture laid out. He wanted everybody to know what was going on. He wanted everybody to know who's on his side, who's on Lucifer's side, and he was getting ready to execute his judgment for those who had made the wrong choice. Okay, so we're getting ready to see what happened here. It was the highest crime to rebel against the government of God, and I might add, it still is the highest crime. Okay, all heaven seemed in commotion. The angels were marshaled into companies, each division with a higher commanding angel at its head. Satan was warring against the law of God because ambitious to exalt himself and unwilling to submit to the authority of God's Son, heaven's great commander. All right, so now we see why. He was ambitious to exalt himself to be God, and he was unwilling to submit to God's Son, who was the great commander of heaven. Okay? All the heavenly hosts were summoned to appear before the Father to have each case determined. Okay, so everybody had taken their sides, all right? They had marshaled themselves into the companies that they had chosen to be under, all right? And chosen their leaders. And now everybody's in court. We got the left hand side and the right hand side, okay? And I'm saying that the right hand side is God's side and the left hand side is Lucifer's side, okay? So now everybody has to come up to the bar, up to the bar of God in front of him and acknowledge who they have chosen to follow, okay? So basically that's what's happening right now. And as each one does that, then God will tell them what his choice has been for their rebellion or for those who have chosen to stay with him. Okay? All right, let's see what's going to happen. Satan unblushingly, okay, fearlessly and unshamedly, all right, I'm adding those two words. Satan unblushingly made known his disaffection that Christ should be preferred before him. Okay? He stood up proudly and urged that he should be equal with God and should be taken into conference with the Father and to understand his purposes. Now God informed Satan that to his Son alone he would reveal his secret purposes. And he required all the family in heaven, even Satan, to yield him implicit, unquestioned obedience. But that he, Satan, had proved himself unworthy of a place in heaven. Then Satan exultingly again pointed to his sympathizers, comprising nearly one half of all the angels, and exclaimed, "These are with me. Will you expel these also and make such a void in heaven?" And I want to just stop here a second. Do you see how he is talking to God? Okay? And sometimes we talk to God like that. All right? We get up on our high horse and we use words that are ungodly. We blaspheme his name. Now, he doesn't strike us dead, immediately and all this stuff. He didn't strike Satan dead immediately. But he wants to teach us, okay, that what we are doing is we're rebelling against him. We are not to use four-letter words. We are not to use curse words. Okay, we are not to use his name in vain. All right, at any time. We are to be respectful beings of his kingdom at all times. And I too, have been guilty of saying things that are not correct, saying things that are not right. And, he's teaching me, Malva, let's get it together. Okay, we don't do those things in heaven. All right, so he wants us to live just the way that we profess, okay, and not just say it, but to actually live that way and to acknowledge that we need his help to do so. Okay? All right, so Satan says he then declared that he was prepared to resist the authority of Christ and to defend his place in heaven by force of might, strength against strength. Okay, he has set down the bar. He has declared what he is willing to do. Fight God is what Satan has just said. Okay? All right, he and his angels. Now, it says here in the last paragraph on page 18, good angels wept to hear the words of Satan and his exulting boasts, because they knew something serious was getting ready to happen. And they felt so sorry for Lucifer, and they just wished he would not take the course that he had put himself on and the other angels. They couldn't believe it. They just could not believe it. And sometimes, we see those that are going the wrong way that we care for and that we love, and that we know, and that if they would only turn around and go the right way, how better their lives would be, how different things would be for them. But for some reason, they just don't want to listen. They want to keep going their way. So this is what we're talking about here. Before he turned himself into Satan, that's where the rest of the angels were coming from. They knew him to be loving and kind and good, and couldn't figure this out. And they wished that he would turn himself around. It says that God declared that the rebellious should remain in heaven no longer. Okay, this is it. Their high and happy state had been held upon condition of obedience to the law which God had given to govern the high order of intelligences. Okay? The high order of intelligences. All right? Meaning that human beings are subject to his law. We are of the high order of intelligences on this earth. Okay? He has given us reason. All right? He has given us the ability to make choices. Okay? According to his will. And we'll be right back.